Hi everyone, today we are going to talk about how to make sellable templates in Affinity Designer. Affinity is what I use to make all of my calendar templates. I've also made digital planners that I've sold and given away as freebies. You could make books for KDP, you could make journals, stickers, all kinds of things. We're going to talk about that in today's lesson, and let's dive into it. I'm Liz Kohler Brown. I'm a surface designer and hand letterer who loves helping creatives find their style and sell their work. First, let's talk about what kind of sellable templates you might consider making in Affinity Designer. Now, this is a short list. I know there are a lot more sellable templates you could make, but this is going to give you an idea of the kind of structures that these templates could have. One example would be calendars, making those little boxes and grids, and you can get really customized here with the style of the grid, the size. Do you want lines or dots? Do you want an open box, closed box? Any kind of font you want to use, all those different things that you can do with calendars. Of course, trackers, something where you want to check things off, schedules, digital planners, all kinds of books like picture books, journals, memory books, life story books, and scrapbooks. There are a lot of people on places like KDP right now producing really ugly AI books and selling a ton of them because they're using these really solid concepts like life story books. If you've never heard of that, it's basically like you gift someone this book, let's say grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, and say, hey, I want to know your life story. Here's a book where you can write it down so we don't lose that information. And it might say, a little box that's like, when were you born? Where were you born? What were your parents' names? What were your favorite things to do as a kid? What are some good memories, some bad memories? What should I know about you? All these beautiful boxes with text and lines for people to fill out. And you put that on Amazon KDP, maybe 50, 60 pages, some of them just like free writing pages with lines. And that is a low content book that you could make in a day and put on Amazon KDP, maybe with some of your gorgeous artwork on the cover, maybe even some filler pages with some of your gorgeous artwork. And you're putting your style, combining that with one of these templates that you can make in Affinity Designer using the precise move tools, and you suddenly have a sellable book. So speaking of Affinity, why are we doing this in Affinity? First of all, precise move tools. We can move things exact pixels, even a fraction of a pixel, left, right, up, down, align it with other things. It's super helpful. We can make vectors, which are infinitely scalable, so you can put your artwork at any scale. You can do text customizations like type on a curve, type on a squiggle. You can do all kinds of interesting things with your type. You can import any font, so you can make sure you're using those open source fonts. I like to use Google Fonts to keep it easy. You can also save assets. You can duplicate your templates and use them for later. You can use the alignment tools, which keep things within a border or a margin. You can set up margins and grids and symmetry drawing based on what your project is. And you can open PDF, AI, and PSD templates. So if you got a template from somewhere else and you need to open it, you can do that in Affinity. Of course, it also has basic photo editing tools, so that can be helpful as well. Let's say you're someone who's like a watercolor artist and you want to take your traditional art and remove the backgrounds from it and put it in a book. You can do that in Affinity. Add some lines, add some prompts. This could be like a Bible thoughts or Bible thoughts of the day quote book, or it could be like a creativity based book. Write down your morning pages, write down your morning creative thoughts. Anything like that to kind of prompt people to do something would be an incredible book. Or in the tutorial, you can follow along with me as I create a printable calendar page featuring some of my art. So all you're going to need to do this is a little bit of your art that goes at the top of the page, and we're going to play around with some different ways to make boxes and numbers and play around with all those template tools in Affinity Designer. Before we dive into this tutorial, I want to mention my free Affinity 101 course. This is where I cover the basics of the app, the basics of vectors, and draw a simple motif. You don't need this intro course to watch this tutorial and and do these steps along with me. But if you start feeling a little overwhelmed, especially if you've never used any other program that has all of these precise move tools and alignment tools, you might be feeling like you need a little bit of an intro before you do this. So feel free to grab that free course if you would rather start there and get more of an overview of the whole app first. So let's start out by taking a look at some examples of what you might do in Affinity Designer to make some sellable templates. So this is something I use Affinity Designer for very commonly, and that is to design my calendars. So I make a space up here where the artwork fits. I have the exact template of the company I use to print my calendars. I know where the little hole's going to be, where they hang it. I know what their bleed is, and I build that all into the template. I can also really easily edit these numbers. So let's say, for example, I want to try like a green on these. That looks kind of interesting. Maybe I want to try this purple instead. So I can play with the color of these really quickly. I can also adjust, let's say, okay, these lines, I'm wishing they were a little bit thicker or thinner. I can really easily play with those lines. And also I can have like optional outer lines. So do I want to have the box on the outside? Would I rather just turn that off? So I can create these nice templates that I can reuse over and over, or you could sell using something like a calendar. The next example is a digital planner. So this is obviously a much more complex composition, but this is the kind of thing you can build in Affinity Designer with layers and get all of this stuff lined up nicely. You can get the buttons linked. You can see how I made these little tabs, and each one has an icon and some shading. So all of this kind of advanced stuff that would be super difficult to do in something like Procreate because you don't have all of the snapping tools, you don't have the vector features. This is really easy to do in Affinity Designer. So when I'm doing something like a planner that I know I'm going to sell or give away as a freebie, I'm going to head to Affinity Designer, especially if it's going to include lines and bullets and all of this stuff that takes so much planning and needs the magnetic tools and snapping tools and move tools. All of that I'm going to do in Affinity. Another fun thing you can do if you are someone who likes the whole digital planning, digital sticker world, is you can create digital stickers. So these are pretty simple stickers, but of course they could have text, they could have your hand lettering, and then you can export this as a PSD file and people can pull the individual stickers out of there. So this can be a fun page to just make for yourself or to sell or give away. And, you know, a lot of people say you can do stuff like this in Canva, but they don't realize that there are some restrictions for what you can do commercially with things that you make in Canva, whereas things that you make yourself, you 100% own everything that you do when you build these shapes, when you choose these colors. So for me, someone who sells my work all over the world and licenses it to other companies who want to know that I have full rights to it, making stuff from scratch like this is the only option for me. I want to mention too that I have a whole class on how I built that exact digital planner in Affinity Designer. So if you're getting excited about all those stickers and tabs and shadows and buttons, that's going to be the class for you. It's super fun. It's super nerdy. We're going to do some math. We're going to play with all of those tools that make things like shade and pop out and gradients and all that fun stuff. So come into that class using the free trial to my membership linked below this video if you want to make a digital planner for selling or giving away or using for yourself. Who knows? You might become a digital planner seller. Let's keep going. So let's go ahead and make this project together. I am going to go ahead and open Affinity version 2. Some people are going to be working in version 1. That's fine. You can use either one. There's just a few little differences, but pretty much overall they're the same. I'm going to tap New document and choose a size here. Let's make this a printable so that anyone could buy it and print it. So under the document units, I'm going to go to inches, under width 8.5, under height 11. So this would be fun if you want to make your own printable calendar page this would be a great size to use. 8.5 by 11, 300 dpi, inches as my dimensions. RGB is my color format unless you know you're printing with a CMYK printer. And then press OK to open that doc. So maybe you do or don't already have artwork that you know you want to put, but I know I want to put my artwork in first. So I'm going to tap the 3-dot menu, place from photos, and then here's the artwork that I want to use. And this is just a quote that I drew in Procreate. Maybe you have something that you've already made, maybe not, but you can just tap place, tap on the canvas, and then you get these bars where you can resize it. You may or may not want snapping on. Snapping's up here, and that's going to snap to different parts of the page, but maybe you don't want it to snap. Maybe you do, so you can turn that on and off. I use that snapping tool all the time. So I'm just resizing this and figuring out where I want it to go. Imagine this is just a piece of paper you're going to print. Where do you want all of your calendar numbers to be versus where do you want your square to be? So I'm going to do something like this with some smaller numbers down here. Now we know the amount of space that we have for numbers is right here. So I'm going to tap the rectangle tool, go ahead and get my stylus, and you can choose your color now or you can choose your color later. It doesn't really matter. Just drag across your screen and put something down. So let's say it's going to be about that size. So I'll get the move tool and we will call this our calendar space. So I'm not going to go outside those bounds. In the fill here, I'm going to press the blank icon, which is a white square with a blue line through it, and then get black as my color as the stroke. And then over here on the stroke menu, remembering you can press the question mark anytime you need to know what these tools are. Press the stroke menu under width here, bump that up a little bit so it's really easy to see. So that is my available space. Maybe you don't like that ugly color, even though it's part of your template, it might be annoying to you. So take this little eyedropper and drag it over to where you want it to be. So right there, making sure that your rectangle is selected, tap on the color, and now your border rectangle thing is red. So the next thing I want to do is make sure that any aspect of this photo that I don't need is out of my way. So over here, this little crop tool, it's called the vector crop, but you actually can crop a photo with it too. So I'm just going to be cropping this background to the photo. It's actually a PNG with a transparent background, but anyway, I just like to have everything be clean and not have any issues down here in this box, partly because the snapping tool is going to use anything within the box to make judgments about where to place things, so I don't want that box to get messy. Here we are with our rectangle. Do we want to make a little bit of a border here for the print? I think so. Let's just bring it in a smidge, and you're like, well, that's not going to be perfectly in the center. That's true. You press the move tool, move it back and forth, and you see that little snapping line. As long as you've got your snapping tool on here, then that's going to snap right to the middle. So that gives us a nice little clean box to work with. If you want to rename that layer, 3-dot menu, rename it, let's call it box. We're getting really fancy today. All right, now I'm going to start making the boxes for my days of the week. So this box is actually a really important element because it's going to be a measurement for us. So let's see what the size of it is. It's 7.881 by 3.089. That's not great. I would much rather work with whole numbers, being someone who's not really good at math. If we did it 7 inches wide, 3 inches tall, everything would be easier. So I always think about that when I'm making templates, like, how could I make my life easier by using simpler math? Now, it doesn't have to be this exact size. You could make it work with the unusual math, but you're going to need to do some calculations. So right now what I've got is 7 by 3, and that fits really nicely there. So now that we know that this is 7 inches wide, the cool thing about that is we can do 1 by 1 inch squares. So same thing, vector tool over here, drag a square, and when it lays down, originally it may not be the perfect size, but I'm tapping that transform menu, and I'm going to tap 1, 1, bam. I've got a 1 by 1 square. It doesn't have a stroke yet, so in the color menu, I'm going to turn on the stroke. And with the move tool, move it up into the corner here. That is my first square. So this is one way to do it with squares. Another way to do it would be with just lines. So we'll look at the pros and cons of that. Let's say you would rather, instead of having squares across here, you'd rather have lines. So for example, this calendar, each of these lines here is a single line. So you won't have to worry in this case about putting a box by a box by a box. It also makes it really easy to have this optional outer box. So that is one reason I would rather build with lines over boxes, but I did want to show you guys boxes because I think that there are going to be cases where you need a box. You also can use this box to make a line. So currently you can't delete these points, but if you tap this little node tool right here, again pressing the question mark if you can't find the node tool, this little symbol here, it's called convert to curves. It turns this into an editable vector. So I tapped convert to curves, still got that node tool selected, tap on a node, delete. Now it's a triangle. Tap on a node, delete. I think you can see why it's so nice to do something like this in Affinity, because already you're seeing how flexible this process is. I press the move tool. I'm pulling this line all the way to the edge here, all the way to the edge. Now you want this line to be in the perfect spot where it needs to be, right? So look at our box and tap the transform menu. It is at 7 by 3 inches. That's the dimensions, and the position is 0.769 by 7.631. That's not ideal, but I can still make that work. Now that I know where that is, I can make sure that these two are in the exact same spot. So I can check the transform menu and make sure that my line is in the exact same spot. So I just drug my line to the very top of this template, just using, I'm going to go back so you can really see. I'm just using the snapping tool. As soon as it gets close, it's going to just snap right onto that. And if you're just not sure and you want to double check it, go to that transform menu, make sure that dimension was the same. You can also zoom in really closely and just make sure it's snapping left to right in the right place. I always just zoom in and double check it, but right there, it's right on the corner. So now I could remove my box and I just have a line. So you can see anytime you wanted to do like lined paper, you could do that. So now I can duplicate my line, go to the transform menu in the y-axis and go plus 1 inch. This is an inches dimension, and you can see that here, it says inches, and then press OK. That just went down 1 inch. Let's do it again. 2 inches. 3 inches. So every time you press that button, it's going to go again, again, again. So now we've got 3 beautiful lines. Well, what if we want to have ½ inches? Duplicate. I've got all 3 selected by just swiping them. I duplicated them. Back to the transform menu, y-axis minus 0.5. Bam. Look at those beautiful lines. Isn't that pretty? So let's just get rid of our box for now so we can really see what we're doing. You can drag to highlight a certain number and then delete them. So if you want to just drag and delete. So this is kind of the process I go through whenever I'm building something, because I'm thinking, I don't know exactly what I want this to be yet, but I'm just kind of playing with some ideas. You can 2-finger tap to step back, 3-finger tap to go forward. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines, which leaves me 6 blanks. So I really want to have 7 blanks vertically. So I'm going to make myself one more line, duplicate, and minus 0.5. So now I have 7 blanks vertically. I'm going to tap the first one in the menu, 2-finger tap the last one. That selects all of them. That's a time-saving tip, you guys. Let's do that again. Tap the first one, 2-finger tap the last one, 3-dot menu, duplicate, rotate. I'm here in the transform menu, rotate. So this is my 7 days of the week, right? So I'm just using the snapping tool to put that in place all the way on the left side, and then we drag it over until we get it right into place. And I'm thinking we're gonna have to zoom in to get it to go right into place. And then obviously we don't need all this extra space here, so we just bring this down, and bam, we've got a beautiful template. Again, just zooming in to make sure we're hitting right on that line. So now we have this flexibility. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks. You're never going to have a year that has 7 weeks. So we actually can delete this top line. And this is where it gets kind of fun, because you get to decide how you want this template to look, and you could do one of these for every single month of the year. Let's say you have a mailing list. I'm just tapping on these and deleting them. Let's say you have a mailing list. You want to send people something every single month. You could make one of these templates, pop one of your square artworks on the top with the months of the year here, and that is your monthly freebie. Now you have a mailing list and you know you're sending people something once a month. That's kind of an easy one, right? So this is where you can really flex, you know, how you want this laid out. I'm using 2 fingers to step back. I'm going to go to my gallery and just duplicate this, because let's say I want to save this. I don't know if I'm going to want to use that box again. We'll just save it. That way we can play with this with, you know, however we want it to look, and maybe we'll use the other one later, or, you know, we might want to step back and decide I didn't like anything that I did. So I selected all those outer boxes and pressed delete. Another thing I want to try is changing the thickness or changing the line. So let's zoom in so you guys can really see this. Here in the stroke menu, we have all these fun things that we can play with. We can change the thickness. Obviously that's a little aggressive. We can change the cap. See how we have a rounded cap, flat cap, the cap that goes past the node, or the cap that goes before the node. You can change join marks, but we don't have any joins, which would be like a square where the 2 parts join like that. So mainly for this purpose, the cap, the scale, and then you can do dotted lines. And then you can change the width, you can change the dash, the size of the dash, the size of the gap. I want to show you guys this just because I want you to know how flexible this app is and how many different options you have when it comes to something like this. It's question time. This is the part of the video where I take a little bit of a break to answer a question from you all in the comments. Ann Sanders says, this is very helpful. Can you recommend any print-on-demand supplier with great home decor products? I love this question, and I have been super curious about this as well. And I recently did a test of so many different print-on-demand companies because I wanted to know who has the best notebooks, who has the best calendars, who has the best stickers. And I tried so many products. I actually did a full review of those inside my membership. membership. It's print on demand unboxings, and I talk about the pros and cons of each company. So if you want to check that out, get the free trial in the description right below this video, and you can see my unboxings for all the different companies. I would say though, in general, and it depends on what product you're talking about, because I've found companies that I'm like, wow, you do cards really well, but your calendars are bad. But this guy does calendars really well, and their stickers are bad. So it's product by product, I think. So what I would say first and foremost, choose your product. What is your artwork perfect for? Then get a test from each of those companies that you think are doing a pretty good job and go from there. Again, I do the unboxings in my membership so that not everyone in my membership has to go buy hundreds of products like I did and unbox them all. So that's something to consider if you want to go a little bit more of a deep dive into print-on-demand companies. So the next thing you might want to put on here, obviously, is numbers, right? We want to know what day of the year it is. So let's tap the text tool right over here. This is the artistic text tool. Tap one time and a text box will pop up. So I'm just going to press a 1 because we're doing a 1. Double tap to highlight it, and then up on the top here is where you see all your options. I always recommend a Google font. If you're going to sell anything, make sure it's an open source Google font, that you're not using anything from one of those sites that's like free for commercial use, because they don't really update those very well. I've heard of a lot of people getting in trouble with that. So definitely make sure you're using a free open source font. So I've got it selected here. I'm going to tap the color tool, drag it over to this line, make sure my stroke and my fill are the color that I want. Then I can tap the move tool and play here with where I want that number, maybe just a little bit further out like that. Then what I love to do here is make a template for my number, because I don't want to worry that these numbers aren't going to be perfectly aligned from line to line. So the easiest way, I think, to do that is to select all of your lines. So I've got all of my lines selected, group, duplicate that group. So now we just have 2 groups of lines, and let's change the color of that one so we don't get confused. So pink is going to be my guide line, and red is going to be my grid for my calendar. So we've got pink on, you're making sure it's on both the stroke and the fill. Then go closer to this number with the move tool selected, and we're just going to decide how far down do we want this to be. And you know, you can get as precise as you want. You could go to the transform menu on the y-axis and press plus 0.1. How far is that? That's maybe even a little further than we want. So let's try plus 0.05. That's kind of nice. Now on the x-axis, do the same, plus 0.05. So you sort of have to play with the numbers. You won't immediately know exactly where you want things to be. You sort of have to play with the Transform Studio. Then you can put that number exactly in that little crevice, and then when we're done, we'll turn off that guides layer and it won't be there anymore. So it's just what we use to align our numbers. We can do a lot of time-saving things at this point. Let's duplicate and move this number over to here. Get it right in place. And you know, you could do the same thing. You can use math to put this in the same place every single time. But for this purpose, I'm just going to put these babies down, and then I want to show you a quick time-saving technique to get all your numbers down the page. So making sure first that all of these numbers are exactly where you want them to be. Everything's in its place. Press the first one, 2-finger tap the last one, 3-dot menu, duplicate, bring that down exactly to where it needs to be, duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. Now I do want to say you can use more math to do that. As you guys know, we know the dimensions of this box. So rather than just manually putting your numbers down, if you wanted to put it down the exact dimensions from here to here, you know how to do that because you know the dimensions of this box. That will be the same dimensions of the numbers movement. So you can get as nerdy as you want with these numbers, y'all. It's up to you. Let's go ahead and group all our numbers. So tap the first one, 2-finger tap the last one, and group. So we've got these beautiful numbers. We've got this calendar template. We can play with the grid size. We can play with the stroke size. I kind of want to go with a small stroke. So I'm going to tap the point here and press 0.2. How thin can we get it? Let's see. That's a little much. 0.3, 0.4. I love being able to do these micro adjustments, you guys. This is exactly how I like to make my work, and it's why this is the tool that works best for me, because I can literally adjust point by point and decide how many points I want this to be. For me, 0.7's looking kind of nice. It's like not taking any distraction here away from this. But let's say we want to make this a lot smaller. Put that up in the middle and add some text for the month. So I'm just going to duplicate one of these numbers, drag it up into the middle of the canvas here, double tap, type January, get the move tool, make sure it's right in the center of the canvas here. Actually, let's make it bigger. I think you can see how quickly you can change stuff like this. Same idea with the changing these. You know, in Procreate, you would have to go to the layers panel or set up a quick action to click over and over to get to each number. Here you can literally just double tap on the number. Whoops, that's 3. Double tap 4. Double tap 5. So even though these are on different layers, you can really quickly edit stuff like this. So that's one reason I love working in Affinity Designer. I feel like it saves me a lot of time. I also am noticing that I failed to put numbers over here, but it's really not a big deal when you work in Affinity Designer because you can just highlight the numbers that you want to duplicate, 3-dot menu, duplicate them. Where's our little guide that we made? Bring it over here. Put it right here, and there is our other numbers. So you could make something like this, send it out to your mailing list. You could adjust these boxes however you want them to be, put whatever kind of art you want on the top, and then you have a beautiful customized freebie. I want to tell you all that I just finished making a ton of templates, and these are calendar templates for members of the studio. Many of my members have said they want to do a calendar, but it's difficult to make all the months and know the sizing and get the margins right and be able to just put the text in and go. So I made all the templates for 2026 so that they don't have to, and my team helped me. I didn't do it all by myself. It's a lot of pages, saving people many, many hours of work. So if you want to go grab those templates and just pop your artwork in and be selling your 2026 calendar like that, then go ahead and use that free trial to my membership, The Studio, so that you can grab those templates. So I hope you all enjoyed making this calendar template. If you make one of these, please share it with me on social media. Tag me at Liz Kohler Brown so that I can see your calendar page. If you liked this video, you might also like my Affinity Made Easy video where we create a pattern together, or my Make Sellable Graphics video where we use Affinity Designer to create vector graphics that you can sell on sites like Etsy and Creative Market.